30 minutes, 10 questions. Welcome to the Millionaire's Hot Seat. For the next 30 minutes, you'll want to take notes. You can have more clients, more money, and more love, success, and happiness. My name is Melissa Krivachek, and I am your host. This is the show where we put pressure on millionaires to get their best kept secrets, strategies, and insights to building a million and oftentimes multi-million-dollar business. My guest today is Ryan White. Ryan, are you ready to take the hot seat?
I am very much ready. Thank you for having me. I'm ready to drive some audience or some value to your audience base. Thank you.
You got it. So we all know mindset's the number one key to making millions. How do you keep your mind sharp, focused, and in the right space to accomplish your goals?
For sure. That's a great question. I think for me, it's probably just a daily positivity flow. For the first start of my day, every day, I kind of do a little scripture reading, but then after that, I kind of get into my personal development stuff. So it's podcasting, reading an audiobook or something of that sort. But it's just this whole idea of having a positivity flow into your life to learn from other people who are already maybe doing what you're trying to do. And so it's this whole idea of ranking up and through kind of personal development, being able to achieve things that you never thought you could achieve. It's just always good to kind of have personal encouragement from other people who have already been down the path that you're trying to go. So for me, I think the answer would just be, podcasting and audiobooks and just doing something that relates to personal development.
And that's in addition to studying the Bible.
Yes. So, and a lot of people that kind of follow me know this about me. So I am a Christian. Oh yeah. Awesome. That's good stuff. So, but before I even pick up my phone each and every day, like I have basically a routine of where I read 2 chapters every day. So I don't do 1 chapter because it's too easy, right? I want it to be challenging in everything that I do. So I always read through 2 chapters. And then again, that kind of gives me just my spiritual development before I even get into the personal development side of things. And then move into business.
That's interesting because I actually have an app that I use, and then I have a Bible as well. So that's like sort of my morning routine, which I've never talked about on the show. So that's kind of interesting.
That's good stuff. I feel, so it's so important to have a morning routine, as you start to kind of listen to other entrepreneurs, come to find out that they all do a lot of the same things. And so I think that definitely plays a role in the formula for success, if you will.
Absolutely. So when your mind wanders off, how do you reframe to get back on track? In your case, you have a wedding coming up, but if your grandma died, your dog died, or some other crazy thing happened, how do you reframe that?
I think it's really having a strong support system. For me, it's having, my partners play a huge role in that. So I actually have 9 partner firms around the world who are CEOs of their own companies, kind of out doing some of the same things that I'm doing. And so it's really, taking a step back, getting on the phone. Maybe it could be as simple as a phone call, right? Or a text message, but really connecting with someone who kind of shares the same values and beliefs that you do in order to get your mind back into that personal development and kind of that push mentality.
Yeah.
So I think without a support system, a strong support system, and my partners are kind of like brothers to me. Just anytime I do business, I'm very careful about who I choose into my inner circle. And I think that's key because there's so much, especially like when you become what people call an influencer, right? You get so many people from all over the world reach out to you and want to become, hey, affiliated with you or associated with you or collaborate with you in your brand. And so I think it's really important that you basically have the skill set to kind of filter through all of that and kind of hone in on people who really stack up with your beliefs and values so that anytime you go to them, you're kind of getting that support that you need to get back on track.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But how often do you listen to your inner voice and how accurate has that been when it comes to making decisions?
I would say early on, I probably didn't listen to it as much as I should. I felt like like a lot of people, had a lot of reservations, even starting the entrepreneurial journey, right? Mm-hmm. We all have different reservations about why we can't get started today, right now, whether it be the security of a 9-to-5 paycheck, or maybe you've heard of a business failure from a fellow entrepreneur who they went down that road and it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like a lot of that for so long, right? I had basically dreams and aspirations as a 2-year-old boy to go run a multi-million-dollar company one day, but I never really stepped into my first company as a founder entrepreneur until 18 months ago. So a large majority of my life was not listening to that inner voice, right? Pushing that to the side because of the traditional beliefs that we're kind of brought up with and told, especially here in the South, of kind of what we must do to, develop a career. Right? We're told to go to college and go work for someone else. And so I feel like a lot of that played into why I didn't get started early as I would have liked to now in hindsight looking back. But now that I have, taken that leap of faith, if you will, I definitely tend to go with my gut, because my gut's always said that I could be successful doing this. And now in 18 months, we have been very successful in doing this. So a lot more now. And it's been very beneficial.
So Ryan, we've all heard your network is your net worth. How do you choose your inner circle? And you touched on this, that you're very keen about keeping a small inner circle. Like, what qualities or characteristics are you looking for?
That's a great question. So for me, I think it's about, just this whole idea of I can only bring in people that I trust. So for me, being a Christian, naturally, I'll look for people who kind of are similar in their beliefs. Now, that again, I'm not, because you have some people from the Bible Belt, as people call it, that if you're not a Christian, I can't do business with you. I don't necessarily believe that, because I feel like, Christians were put on this earth for a purpose, right? So I may be placed in this person's life who's reaching out to me to become a business partner, who is genuinely a good person, who I feel, like I can trust. I may be kind of that light in their life, if that makes sense. So it's not like, hey, if you're not a Christian, I work with you. I do feel like 100% we can still make that relationship happen, but it is that much better if you are kind of sharing my same beliefs and some core values, because I just feel like when we get into deep conversations, I feel like we're gonna match up in our ideas a lot more often, and there's gonna be a lot less conflict. So probably trustworthiness, and just the way that I was raised. Like, if you have a similar background story as me, obviously you have to be a go-getter like myself. Like, I can't be over here working with you as a partner, and I'm devoting all this time and energy in developing something, and I find out that you've basically been on vacation for the last 2 weeks. That obviously wouldn't be good. And so, just some of the qualities that I feel like I view as myself having, I kind of look for that in other people.
Okay. And what are those values?
So probably, like, I'm super consistent in what I do, right? Okay. So every day, like, I have a pretty strict schedule that I follow. I don't really deviate much from that. And so, I would say consistency, being trustworthy. Like, if you say you're going to do something, make sure that it gets done. Probably if you tell me you're going to do something as a business partner and it comes back around, I may forgive you the first time if it falls through, but the second time I'm going to be like, we may have a problem here. And then I think it's just, just having the ability to have a vision, right, and know where you're going. So I like to work with people, like, for instance, one of Luke Kessler is his name. He's the CEO of one of our biggest partner firms. And every time we get on a phone conversation, we build off one another, right? Because he's talking about how he wants to double what he made yesterday. Even if he made $10,000 yesterday, he wants to, hey, let's go make $20,000 together tomorrow. And then it's masterminding on how we can both go do that together. And so when you surround yourself with those types of people, you can't lose in a situation or an environment like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because you're like reading my mind. So a mastermind of
For sure.
people is significant. How often do you meet with yours, and what do you discuss? Do you discuss only the business, or a lot of other things like fitness and family and faith and all that kind of stuff?
For sure. For me personally, we discuss all of it. Like I said, I thrive on personal connection, just coming from the South. A lot of people say it's, Southern hospitality or whatever it may be, but it's like the fact that me and you, a lot of people, this may be news to them, but, it's like me and you talking for an hour before the show started. I just, the same way you value personal connection, I do as well. Like, I want to know not just, how you can help me in business, but other than that. Mm-hmm. Of my partners, for instance, like, they're all coming to my wedding in March. That kind of tells you the brotherhood that we've developed, through business and through working together. And I know a lot of times people are like, hey, you shouldn't get in business or bed with your best friend, because that can sometimes cause, conflict. And there is a certain truth to that. But I feel like if you're super careful and only bring people in who, like I said, are trustworthy and do share those core values and beliefs, that should never happen. Right? Because anytime a conflict arises, you'll see eye to eye on it most of the time, or at least you can fall back on your faith, right? And one party is at least going to go, hey, I can kind of see where you're coming from. I'm myself in your shoes, and we're going to alleviate this issue. And I feel like for me, we here in America, for instance, I'm trying to argue about what they disagree on versus trying to figure out how they can work together on what they agree on. And
Yeah.
so I would say everyone in my circle that I have personal relationships with, we try to focus on the latter.
Okay. I love that. Like, so the more you hang around successful people, the more successful you become. What habits have you developed on a daily basis that increase your productivity? Things like journaling, meditation, working out, drinking water, like whatever they are.
100%. So I'm a big Grant Cardone fan, as most people who follow me know. He taught me at very early on when I got into entrepreneurship what massive action in the whole 10X strategy can really do for someone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, there needs to be strategy behind just you dumping massive loads of action into something, but 100%, like every day, I try to dump massive action in everything I do. Talked a little bit before, I don't have to do anything, especially in entrepreneurship and my business. I'm either all in or I'm all out.
Yeah.
And then again, just the consistency, through podcasting and audiobooks, you hear about different things that other successful entrepreneurs have done that work for them. And it's things like waking up and having a morning routine that's so crucial to basically not waking up and letting the day unfold to where if things happen, your day now controls you and you're just living the day versus waking up, having a morning routine and controlling and taking control of the day. And so I think, again, punctuality, consistency, having a morning routine and dumping massive action all come from mentors and people I've learned from.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, and you have to take time for yourself. I think a lot of people in business don't necessarily take time for themselves. So for you, you're like, hey, let me do all these things in a big bundle and then I can go have fun, but you're not neglecting the fun in order to do all these things.
Exactly. And that's so huge. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, we struggle with that, right? Because we're always told, hey, you have to build this thing before you can really, go and reap the benefits from it years later. So like we feel like sometimes we have to miss out on all these concerts. If my friends are going out, like I can't be a part of that stuff while I'm in my first 2 years of a startup. I don't necessarily believe that.
Yeah.
I feel like you make the most of your time that you have Monday through Friday, but like even for my fiance and I, Saturday, Sunday are our family time. And I tell people, hey, listen, I don't work on the weekends. You can get me whenever you want, pretty much from, 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday morning to any day. I mean, I'll work literally till 8, 9 o'clock at night. And my fiance knows that my work days is pretty much my work time. Now I do cut it off around 8, 9 o'clock, and the later part of my evenings do kind of go back to family. But Saturday, Sunday, like we're trying to take the dogs to the park. We're trying to drive supercars if that's what we want to do, right? If there's a movie out like Bumblebee that we want to go see, we're going to do that stuff because I feel like you have to give your mind the ability to kind of refresh. It can't be go, 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 go. At the end of the day, we are humans. So it's just really time management.
Yeah, it's about making like the decisions that like mean the most for your family. So for us, like I had the option to go to Vegas this weekend and go with my event manager and a guy that works with me as well. And so I said, I can't, like, it's Tyler's grandma's funeral. And the end of the story is like, I'm not missing that over an opportunity to come to Vegas.
Of course.
I love Vegas. I love my partners. I love you guys, but my responsibility lies at home.
100%. And I can respect that because that's the same way that I would be for sure. I was raised in an environment where family is everything. Your business, truth be told, in reality, a business can be swept out from underneath you, in a very quick amount of time. Whereas, family is going to be there for forever. So, I mean, it just goes back to affiliating yourself with people who believe the same things that you believe. You have a partner or family, they don't have much of a family or not close with their family. That may be a potential problem, right? They want you to come to Vegas. They can't see where you're coming from. There's a problem. But again, if what happened to you were to happen to me, me telling my partners that I couldn't come to Vegas for a work event with someone, or who I'm with, someone died, that would never be an issue. You know what I mean? And so that's what I take comfort in.
Yeah, I totally agree. They were like, we totally get that. It's awesome. Like, spend that time with Tyler and his family. And so, I love that they respect that. Now, interestingly enough, I always like curate relationships with people that are like a husband and wife duo. So they get that like dynamic of, yes, family is important and it's just as important as the business, and know which one to do at what time and for how long. Right.
That's awesome. Good stuff.
So Ryan, money and fulfillment are things ultimately everyone wants, and are things that make businesses thrive. What drives you?
I think for me, it goes a little bit deeper than money. I genuinely, when I got into my business, it was to help other people go out and do exactly what I'm doing, right? It's to help people, clients of mine, go and be able to live financially free, the lifestyle that they desire to do. And so I got into this, really it was more than the money. I was living, honestly, my dream life when I was a private baseball instructor, training kids every day, helping put them in college and giving them a piece of my life. And so, I was happy and in a good place, even when I was making $50,000, $60,000 a year. It's just, I knew I could do more, with my potential. And I felt like I was called on this earth to do more. So, naturally it's just, again, helping people get to whatever financial freedom, they want to be. And so I think that's probably what drives me the most. I don't want just myself to win, even like I want my whole team to win. So I'm never going to stop pushing until my whole team is basically doing the things I'm doing, living in the places that I'm living and driving the cars that I'm driving. That's just kind of the way that I am. So.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, because that's not in the podcast. And normally I don't touch on this, but you've got $150,000 car. So,
Right.
For those people that don't know, what kind of car do you drive?
Yeah, so I drive a BMW i8, which, most people don't know, but it's a hybrid. So, meaning it can be driven electric only or sport mode, which has gas. And it's a fun car to drive. I think the last time I looked up the specs, it's 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. So it's going to be fun.
Right. So this is the kind of things like this luxurious lifestyle can afford you. But at the end of the day, it's really about like being able to come home and hitting your head to the pillow at night with a peace of mind that you have that financial security to do whatever you want to do and to go wherever you want to go. And a lot of people don't have that because they're busy spending money that they don't have on things that they don't need in order to like regress their business. And
Right.
so you should definitely put more money in your business than you do in your car. But if you come to a point in your business where you can afford the car, then do that.
Right. For sure. No, I agree 100% with that. And that was kind of where I was. I felt like I was, in my particular situation, I was at a good place to
Mhm.
where, I didn't have to stress. It's not like I went and bought the car and then now I'm worried about how rent's going to get paid, right? Or how my family's going to eat. So I feel like, a lot of people, because my family, again, being very conservative, working for the state, being educators for 30 years, of course, I caught heck about it, right? When I went out and they were like, why are you buying this car? Naturally.
Mhm.
But I think for me, it was about, I was unmarried at the time, no kids, I'm young, business is going well. I know that I still don't really have to worry about my monthly finances. And so I feel like we'll just come here before it's in our lives and it become priority.
Yeah, I get you there. So how do you avoid or overcome fear, self-sabotage, and procrastination?
So oddly enough, I've never really been a procrastinator.
Okay.
I was actually it's a funny story. It's a kind of an inside joke, but I was a salutatorian of my high school class of 92 people, right? Shout out to class 2008. But I've just never been a procrastinator. Again, just this whole, I grew up in sports. So I've always had a competitive nature. I played college baseball on scholarship. And so I think just that competitive nature, and my dad was my high school baseball coach. So if you don't know this about me, he he played collegiately and semi-pro ball. So naturally I was in an environment where I always had to push because he expected me to be the best kid on the team. Right. And, and even in the case that he was like, hey, you don't need to be the best kid on the team. You need to be the best kid in the whole county and the surrounding counties because there's a big world out there. Right.
Yeah.
And so it was this whole mindset of personal development, the competitiveness, that I always needed to get something done and I needed, to be moving myself forward. And so procrastination, I never had problem with, but, other things that I did maybe struggle with, it goes back to how to surround yourself with good in those areas so that it can kind of through osmosis streamline into your life, or you needed to be, reading an audiobook or podcasting in order to learn from people who were good in those areas. It has to come from somewhere in order to complete the full picture.
Yeah, for sure. So what about fear and self-sabotage? Do you have those?
Yeah, so I definitely have fear, 100%. I feel like, not necessarily fear. Fear isn't always a bad thing. I feel like we can leverage fear a lot of times to do things we never thought we could do. For instance, you of all people would know, no one ever got rich or famous staying inside their comfort zone.
Yes.
So I think for me, even doing my first TV show, which we talked about a little bit, Good Morning LA, I was petrified to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it was, and I remember it's so funny because if Grant Cardone ever does watch this, I was literally blasting Grant Cardone for like an hour in the house before I ever like button the final, button on my suit and get in the car and actually go to set, like just trying to mentally prepare myself to face my fears. I mean, it was all the Grant Cardone speeches that you see. And so I naturally struggle with fear as well, but I think it's just you have to stay committed to your end vision, right? Your goal. And so if my goal was to be successful and to help other people live the lives they want to live and become a digital marketer and this social media expert, I knew that I had to do the TV show, right? And so, and it's the same, it's understanding too that other people, some of the biggest, speakers in the world, at some point they had to also do their first speaking event, right? And
Yeah.
you listen to how they struggle with fear as well. So, and in hindsight now, I mean, I remember Alex Morton's a prime example. I was listening to a podcast from him and he was like, man, I remember my very first speaking event was with friends of mine. I had 10 to 12 friends who come over to a house to do like this masterminding party. I was supposed to be speaking. And next thing you know, like I'm in the bathroom, literally like hyperventilating. And when kid was about to throw up doing his first speaking event in front of his friends. And now he's like, in hindsight, I laugh about it because I've probably been on stage and done over 1,000 appearances, spoken for hundreds of thousands of people. And, it's just, you can learn to do anything the more times you do it. So I feel like it's just that initial push that we need to kind of move forward.
So it's funny. So like I say that, so here you are, like this is your average person or like you right before you're going to hit the set. And like over here, this is the person that you have to be. And like in between, there's this like cliff and it's this cliff of fear. So like in order to go from who you are currently to who you want to be, the guy on the TV, you have to like either overcome it or just bow out pretty much.
Exactly. That's true. That's a great illustration. And I feel like everyone has to go through that. It's crazy. I have an employee of mine right now who, and it's so funny. I'll just throw this in there. They did a survey of the United States. Like dying is not the number one fear in America. It's literally public speaking.
Yeah.
People just don't like, it's crazy because people just don't like getting in front of people and having all the attention on them. You know what I mean? And so she doesn't want to do calls. That's her big fear. She's like, I don't know if I can just want to call some random person that I don't know and talk to them about trying to sell them something. And I'm like, when I did my first, I remember it like it was yesterday, even when I got into instruction back from 2013 to 2017, my first lesson was with a 4-year-old kid. And I was literally freaking out because I was like, I could just mess this up. This parent's coming here to pay me $40 for 30 minutes of my time to work with her kid. It's got to be perfect. And I remember just being so nervous and literally fearful of that lesson. And then, naturally after doing it for 4 years, I was turning kids out like this and just say, hey, when's the next one? And I would do 10, 12 in a day and it was nothing. Yeah. Now it's like riding a bicycle. And I feel like it's the same thing with anything in life. Kind of my next big hurdle is actually public speaking, like on a larger scale. So I've done podcasts and television shows. I've actually never been on stage talking to like hundreds of people. And now I'm getting the exposure where people are reaching out to me, because of course I've had opportunities in the past and I've kind of just pushed them to the side.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm very new into entrepreneurship. So now I'm supposed to, and I get that I have an expertise, especially in digital marketing and social media that people would love to hear. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of going through that again now. So although I did it with the podcasting and the TV show, I'm kind of entering that whole realm of, okay, I'm going to have to push forward one more time, get on stage and talk in front of people, although I'm not really comfortable with it, in order to deliver the value that I know the audience is there to receive. And
so funny story, Ryan. Last year was my first speaking gig. Unbelievably, I have somehow made it 10 years through business and never spoke on stage.
Wow.
So the guy flies me out to California, puts me up in this massive, beautiful hotel, picks me up in a $550,000 Rolls Royce. And we go to like his home, which is spectacular. And I'm thinking like, what the hell did I get into?
Oh yeah. Oh,
and
yeah,
I know that tomorrow morning there are going to be hundreds of people watching me on stage. So,
and you're by yourself, you feel like, right?
Right. No, but I brought somebody from my team with me, but only because she happened to live in Orange County. So here I am. I bring my event manager And I had just opened an event company. So I'm not even 1 year into this event management company, and I know I'm having a big event. And so I said, sit in the audience and like, just critique me. That's all I need you to do. So I get up on stage. Well, first of all, I did something that most speakers don't do. I planted myself in the audience. And
Oh, wow.
I was making a point. I brought up person to my left and person to my right. And I was like, come up on stage with me because you just failed to connect with me because you were so busy looking at your phone. And because you failed to connect with me, one, you didn't know how much money was sitting next to you or who was sitting next to you. And two, you could have sold me a life insurance policy because we were, had the time to do that, but you didn't do it. And I could have changed your life.
Right.
But you were so busy like in social media that you didn't do that. So I'm on stage and I am pretty much killing it. Like, I mean, all of the podcasts and the writing of the books and like everything helped me. And I'm owning this stage like I had been on stage 1,000 times before. So I get off stage and like John, who's spoken in front of audiences of 40,000 or more, like all the time, that's his career, says like, we normally get feedback. We have no feedback. Like that was by far one of the best speeches like we've ever heard. And we bring in speakers every single Saturday for our people to listen to.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, John, just so you know, it's my first time speaking on stage. And he's like, you're kidding, right? And I'm like, no. And Aggie's like, I wish she was kidding, but she's not. That's why I'm here to give her feedback.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, well, good for you. Good for you. Because I'm sure that wasn't as easy as you made it appear.
No, it totally wasn't. Like so first of all, like I wanted to be me because that's just who I am. So I came in the dress and I was very like dressed up for the on stage portion. And John had asked me to stay throughout the duration of the day. And so I went up to my room and then like I got jeans and just a tank top on and I came back downstairs and they're like, whoa, like you're just a normal person now. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what we all are. Like, we don't have to stay in a dress and a suit all day long to, impress people that don't need to be impressed by the things that we're wearing or the cars that we're driving or the money that we have in our bag. Like, it just doesn't work like that. And so,
exactly.
I mean, like I pulled tens of thousands of dollars out of that room and I was like super proud of that. But at the end of the day, like 15 minutes before I hit the stage, I changed the whole speech. I was just like, I'm going to do this now. And it just came like intuitively, but a lot of people can't do that.
Yeah, no, that's, I think that is a unique skill set, but I think it goes back through your preparation, not even if you sat for an hour and prepped your speech, but just from the years of podcasting and the writing of the books and the surrounding yourself with the people who have probably been on stage before. Naturally, you absorbed, and then that all basically, came to life for you when you were up.
Yeah, but I've done speeches since then and they weren't as good as that day. But they were still good. But I feel like that was just like the showcase. That was like the showstopper. That was like, all right, let's see what life is like on the stage.
When you do speeches, do you usually have the same core message throughout, or do you constantly know every time I speak, I'm coming up with something different?
Yeah, I come up with something different every time.
Gotcha.
All of it relates to sales, but it's definitely like honed to the audience's needs, who they are, and then what I think the outcome should be for them, which is always something tangible. Oftentimes, like it's money in the bank.
Right. That makes sense.
So.
Good to know. I'll get my notepad out and write down and learn from you today.
Yeah, like how much of your life is outsourced? So obviously we talked about you have an assistant. Do you have like laundry, cooking, dishes, cleaning, grocery shopping, all that kind of stuff outsourced?
No, so I'm very much still, a normal guy. Like I said, kind of just getting into this. I mean, I'm still me at the core, I'm just a boy from South Georgia who's kind of stepped into a little bit of financial freedom. I definitely, remember where I came from. And so, I mean, we enjoy, my fiance and I, we enjoy going to literally to the grocery store and just being an average person, and shopping and laughing and, asking about each other's days, like as we're going down the aisles. I mean, it's a good getaway because being an entrepreneur, like I work from home a lot, right? So for me, it's like I need to go do groceries just to get away from everything. But, we don't have a whole lot outsourced. I mean, we do have Like I have a trainer from the UK who used to be like a Mr. Olympia who trains me like with as far as fitness goes. My
Darren?
fiance. It's not Aaron. Who?
Darren.
Darren. It's not Darren. This
Okay.
guy. Yeah, it's not Darren. This guy's his last name is Ballinger. Joe Ballinger is his name. But anyway, and then my fiance, of course, she has a personal trainer as well. But we still do a lot. I like you said, I have two. I call them personal assistants because they can technically be admin workers, if you will. But pretty much they do what needs to be done for me. But up until about 6 months ago, I was, like I said, I was 100% hands-on with this business, doing everything to make it function. And I guess the way that I was able to do that though was I went out and I built partner firms. Okay, so my partner firms had their own teams who were out kind of with affiliates, basically white labeling and reselling underneath their own brands my stuff. And so naturally, like all of the demand was coming in already, and kind of filtering to my business for setups. And so really, I was just sitting here, for the first year and just basically helping clients growth and put like kind of the strategy behind the plans of people signed up. But now it's moved into, I think 2019, my goal is more time freedom. So I'm starting to look to outsource more things in 2019 by hiring team members who can, so I can automate a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I mean, for the most part right now, as we currently sit, we still are, I'm just your average guy.
Okay. So here's the last question, Ryan. What's the number one thing you would tell people to stop doing today that could dramatically change or impact their life?
I would say stop letting yourself let doubts enter your mind for me. Because I'm asked the question all the time. If you could go tell your young self one piece of advice, what would it be? It would literally be to do more massive action and to get started earlier. And so it goes back to why I allowed, 25 of my years go by without doing one thing that I knew at 9, 10 years old, that I always wanted to do. And so I feel like it's just this whole idea. I heard something actually this morning on a podcast that talked about change. In order for us to make a change, whether it be, from our job, whether it be relationally with our girlfriend, fiance, or wife, we have to first believe that change can happen. Yeah. Right. And so I feel like for the longest time, we sit back and we see other people who are successful and we're like, yeah, that person can change or they can make that career swap and be successful in it, but that could never happen for me. And the reality is, we all have the same opportunities to go in and create something for ourselves. The first thing is just believing that change can happen, and then understanding, and believing that change leads to prosperity. So, and I'll talk more relationally, but like I feel like a lot of times I struggled in even relationships and business. I felt like truly, like although I was being told to change, I didn't truly think that if I changed, it would really make that much of a difference, right? Or like it wouldn't really lead to me having better results. So, and I can't think of a quick example off the top of my head relationally. But my point is like if I understand that if my fiance is telling me to make this change, okay, it could be, well, here's an example. It just came to me, but we have two things that she wants me to ask her every day. Basically, how are you, and what can I help you with? And in those two questions, I can pretty much cover all her emotional needs as she kind of works through and answers those questions every day that I ask her. And so, but in order for me to make it a point to ask her those two questions, I had to first believe that, okay, I can remember to do that, right? I can make that easy change. And then number two, though, I had to believe that if I truly made that change in my life, our relationship would get better. It's the same thing in business. Like I have to believe if I create more time freedom and hire more workers in my business, that I truly will live a happier life, if that makes sense. So I think biggest takeaway from all of this is to get started earlier, go with your gut, put massive action in, and just make the change, because what you see other people doing, you can also do for yourself.
Yeah. And that's just one decision away. Like you can wake up today and be like, hey, I want to work out more. Hey, like I want to make a few more calls, or hey, like I want to, call a buddy and see what it was like to have a kid. And like, it's just really one phone call away from an answer, or one decision away from having a completely different life.
For sure. 100%.
So, Ryan, where can people find you?
So I have a website. You can go check that out at officialryanwhite.com. Probably the easiest way social media wise to connect with me would obviously be on Instagram, and my Instagram handle is just @RyanWhite.
Awesome. Well, there was tons of actionable items and gold nuggets, Ryan. We appreciate you being here with us. And that is a wrap. Until next time, guys, take care.
See you guys.